Should Mark Carney have apologized to Donald Trump over Doug Ford's anti-tariff ad?
Well, that's what the headlines say, but here's the truth. When you're negotiating with a leader who punishes slights and rewards praise, you don't start a shouting match, you use strategy.
Trump's like a billionaire toddler with launch codes. Loud, impulsive, and convinced that the world is his toy box. You don't argue with him, you baby-proof the room.
Carney's a diplomat. He's appeasing a thin-skinned neighbor just long enough to protect Canada's interests. That's why he's the Prime Minister and we're not, because I'd have thrown my coffee by now.
Me too. Carney's doing what good leaders do, protecting Canadians while keeping doors open. He's polite in public and firm behind closed doors. That's diplomacy. Like it or not, Trump inherited the biggest economy and military on Earth. And after decades of U.S. dominance, the world now has to tiptoe around a Nepo baby who thinks he earned it all himself. You don't reason with him, you manage him.
Ford's ad might have made people cheer at home. I know I did. But it also handed Trump an excuse to slam another tariff on all of us. And let's be clear, he's been looking for a reason.
So, Carney cooled the fire, because that's his job. And he's clear about why. Diffuse a needless fight, keep talking, and focus on results for Canadians.
He's clearly, once again, the adult in the room. He went back to work on trade, security, nation-building deals in Asia, the stuff that actually matters. It's his job to work for the Canadian people, not his ego, and he's proving he can swallow pride when it counts.
So let the premiers swing elbows and let Canadians keep boycotting, traveling at home, and buying Canadian-made cars. Carney will keep calm and Carney on.
And that's what Carney's doing. Well, all week, the talking heads keep saying Carney needs to talk to Canadians more. The pundits keep asking for more speeches. But his job needs deals first. All the speeches in the world don't help the economy.
And this week delivered exactly that. New security ties in Korea, rare minerals with Australia, trade pushes at ASEAN, and a reset dial with China, without giving up our red lines.
The problem isn't that Carney's quiet. It's that the pundits only tune in when they're shouting. He's been doing interviews all week in Asia, from Seoul to Singapore, explaining exactly what Canada's building and why it matters.
That's what talking to Canadians actually looks like. Representing them on the world stage and coming home with progress, not sound bites.
While others, and we know who that is, are yelling about problems, he's over there building solutions. New trade routes, new partners, and a stronger footing for Canada in the Pacific.
That meeting with Xi in Korea, he walked out with an invitation to China and a clear message that Canada's back at the table. He also has an invitation to India in the new year. So what is he doing? He's mending fences with two of the biggest economies on Earth.
He's not hiding, he's working. That's what talking to Canadian actually looks like, explaining what he's doing while he's doing it.
And the irony is, the same commentators demanding he talk to Canadians never show up when he does.
No, they're too busy quoting Pierre Poilievre's podcasts because nothing says leadership like yelling into a microphone about how everyone else is terrible.
Meanwhile, Carney's over there doing his job. Steady, professional, and yes, communicative. Plus, he's been updating Canadians directly online. We follow his Facebook pages, YouTube. There's no spin doctors and just him explaining what he's doing and why.
And if anyone thinks Carney doesn't talk to Canadians, he literally just released a direct message to Canadians.
Right from his feed. No middleman, no press filter. Just him talking to Canadians about why he's been in Asia and how it fits into his plan to strengthen Canadians' economy.
We'll play a short clip here so you can hear it for yourself.
We're going to build big things again. When we do, we're going to use Canadian steel, Canadian aluminum, lumber, technology, and Canadian workers to do it. Only 40% of the steel bought here in Canada is made here in Canada. We'll change that.
You see? That's the point. Clear, calm, and Canadian. He's saying exactly what people claim they want to hear. That Canada's building new alliances and refusing to be bullied. You just have to listen.
I was so inspired. And when the Prime Minister says we're not waiting for permission from anyone to build our future, That's leadership.
So, before you fall for the noise about him being distant or detached, go watch that full video. It's all there, straight from him, not through someone else's headline. We've put the link below so you can see it for yourself.
And as Carney lands back in Canada, he's not taking a victory lap. He's getting ready for the fight of his life.
Yep, budget week. The moment every pundit, party, and armchair economist suddenly remembers how to use a calculator.
Here's what's actually in play on Tuesday. Government spending is split into two buckets: capital versus operating. Operating are schools, hospitals, the day-to-day stuff. Capital is investing in things like ports, grids, housing, clean power. It's all financed, just like every business finances growth.
Here's the part that everyone skips, though. The forecasters aren't clutching pearls about spending. They're asking where it goes. PBO pegs the deficit at around $68.5 billion, and BMO's Robert Kafkic says it could drift toward $80 billion, depending on the cycle. Now, the point here is not the headline, it's the payoff. Remember that.
Even former parliamentary budget officer Kevin Page, the guy who literally audited governments for a living, says this isn't reckless. Canada should use its spending power to grow while protecting our top-tier credit. That's the lane.
So, Carney's carving out operating savings and pushing capital builds like ports, power, and housing that actually expand the economy we're standing on. That's how you get lower debt to GDP over time.
That's not a trick, it's standard accounting. The debt will rise in the short term, and with debt to GDP still in the low 40s and Canada holding a AAA credit rating, we can afford to borrow for things that make the economy stronger.
And the Parliamentary Budget Office says the ratio trends above 43% without growth. So the real fiscal responsibility move is investing in growth so that the denominator gets bigger.
Economists, meanwhile, are saying the exact opposite of what the headlines are screaming. They're not warning about spending too much. They're saying, spend smarter and do it now.
Exactly. Because while the news obsesses over the debt, the real problem is decades of underinvestment.
Carney just wrapped up his official trip to Asia. Trade deals, defense partnerships, a sit-down with Xi, all pointing to one message: diversify or die.
He said it himself at the APEC summit in South Korea. We have to transform our economy from reliance on a single trade partner to one that's more resilient to global attacks.
In plain English, stop betting everything on America. That's the entire point of this budget. It's not a spending spree, it's a reset.
The deficit could hit $80 billion, depending on whose spreadsheet you believe. But it's context that matters. Canada's debt-to-GDP ratio is still one of the lowest in the G7.
And unlike the US, where debt funds tax cuts for billionaires, this is money to build infrastructure, clean energy, and new trade corridors.
Even former budget watchdogs are saying that this is smart debt. Kevin Page once again said there's a need for more debt to drive growth and rebalance with the US. That's called investing in your future, not reckless spending.
But of course, the Conservatives and the Bloc are already sharpening their knives, hoping this will fail. And the NDP? Hey, they got nothing to lose, but they have a lot of leverage.
And there's Poilievre over there calling it book cooking, claiming that Carney's splitting the budget into operating and capital sides is a sneaky trick, which is hilarious because that's exactly how every business in the country does its books.
Right? You don't lump buying a house in with your grocery bill. There's a difference between good debt and bad debt. Good debt is like taking a loan to buy a house. It builds value over time. Bad debt is when you max out your credit card for that shiny new toy you don't need, like a snowmobile you only ride twice a year.
Listen, Carney's budget is the first of its kind. It builds things, power grids, housing, ports, the stuff that pays off for decades. But that kind of common sense doesn't trend on social media. Outrage does.
And that's the point. Carney's budget isn't about theatrics, it's about long-term survival. He's betting on Canadians, not gimmicks.
Look, it's not a game. He even said so. I'm always prepared to stand up for the right thing, and that's leadership.
And while Carney's out there explaining policy and building partnerships, back home, we've got Pierre Poilievre doing what he does best, complaining.
Yep, he's very good at that. It's become his full-time job. The man could find fault in a sunset. Just last week, he called the RCMP leadership despicable on a podcast. Then he spent 3 press conferences insisting he didn't say what he clearly said.
When you spend more time walking back your own quotes than walking forward on policy, you might need to find yourself a new compass.
Meanwhile, let's look at his actual record.
On pharmacare, sustainable jobs, and the Affordable Housing and Groceries Act, Conservatives voted against at key stages or pledged to scrap them. That's a choice, dude. If you want lower costs, you don't block the tools that lower costs. He's allergic to progress.
You can't brag that nothing gets done when you're the one voting against getting it done.
Carney's team passes bills, signs agreements, and keeps the economy moving. Poilievre's team, well, they record podcasts about why they can't.
One's running a government, the other's running a grievance tour.
And the funny part? The louder he yells about Carney not talking to Canadians, the quieter he gets when you ask him what he'd actually do instead.
Maybe because the answer is usually cut, cancel, or complain.
Oh, and speaking of complaining, the other parties are already spinning this budget like it's some secret election trap. The Conservatives are already rehearsing their excuses, saying, Carney wants an election, so when they vote on the budget, they can claim that he forced it down.
Please. Does this man look like someone who wants to get back on the campaign trail? No. This is a guy who wants to govern and to do the work.
Prime Minister Carney just spent 2 weeks meeting world leaders, securing trade deals, and building Canada's credibility. The last thing he wants is another campaign bus tour and a debate stage full of Poilievre slogans.
So true. Leaders like Carney don't crave the spotlight, they crave results. And that's why Xi meets with him and the EU listens when he talks.
Because when Carney walks into a room, people know they're dealing with a professional, a statesman.
Can you imagine PP handling this job with the same class under this kind of global pressure? He can't even handle a question from a reporter without snapping at them or chewing on an apple. Now picture him negotiating with Xi or standing up to Trump's terrace without a complete meltdown.
That's why this isn't just about numbers. It's about who Canadians trust to represent them when it actually counts. And right now, that trust belongs to the grown-up in the room.
We all know this. Canadians don't want another election. We just had one. We want stability, lower costs, and a government that actually works.
But the Conservatives and the Bloc, they need a villain. They're already laying out the groundwork so that if they tank the budget, they can point the finger back and say, Carney forced it!
It's the same routine that we've seen from Trump for years. Start the blame game early, then pretend you're the victim when your own mess backfires. It's damage control before the damage even happens.
The truth is, Carney's been clear from the start. He's 100% confident that this is the right budget for this moment in time. It's not a political stunt, it's not a trap, it's a plan.
And if the opposition wants to gamble with the country's stability just to score points, well, that's on them.
And here's the catch. Canadians are paying attention this time. They know who's trying to build and who's trying to burn it down.
Yep, the polls already show it. Most Canadians want Parliament to work together, not start another campaign surface tour.
So maybe it's time for the opposition to remember who they actually work for. And it's not their Twitter followers. It's Canadians.
Because if this budget fails, it won't be because Carney wanted an election. It'll be because the opposition did. And Canadians, we won't forget that.
So if you want Canada building, not bickering, hit like and subscribe and tap on that bell so the algorithm doesn't try to bury Canadian stories.
Or join our A-team for behind-the-scenes chats, or why not pick up a Canadian t-shirt? We've got Keep Calm and Carney on to elbows up.
Or hop on our Substack for the Sunday deep dive for paid subscribers, and there's a good chunk for our free subscribers too.
And if you're new here, check out how Canadians fight with their elbows up at our video where we roast the U.S. ambassador to Canada.
So let's get to work, everybody, and we will see you next time.
Ciao for now.